everybody. It's Leigh and Allison, and this is not legal advice. And today we're going to talk about a hot topic in more ways than one, adultery. So it obviously comes up a lot in my profession as a divorce lawyer that people have either been cheated on or they're cheating. And so I feel pretty qualified to confirm when people say, I think this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I think they're cheating. And I actually feel pretty qualified to say, I think, yeah, they are, or nah, they're probably not. So what do you think, Allison, in your relationship coaching? Do you see that a lot?
I see cheating. I see it slightly differently. You see the end of the line. I see it quite often when possibly there's been somebody cheating, and it's more of a cry for help.
Oh yeah.
Help is a wrong word, but a cry for, there's something wrong in the relationship. So it's not always necessarily the serial cheater that I see. That's, I do of course see women who are married to narcissists, and of course the narcissist tends to be a serial cheater. Yeah. So there are two different situations. Well, actually there are more than two. There are three different situations. The serial cheater, the one-off because it's a cry for help, and also the cheating because the relationship is at the end. So yeah, I see that. I see that as well, and it depends really. It comes down to what you want to do, where what your desire with that relationship is. Is it to resolve the situation? Is it to extricate yourself from the situation?
So what do you? I mean, and we may have different takes. Of course, I am a divorce lawyer. So do you think that people should get divorced when there's cheating?
I think it depends on the cheating. I think, as I say, if you're with a serial cheater, the only way you're going to get respite, the only way you're going to get peace of mind is, yes, to get divorced. There is no other option. And there you probably want to work on yourself, work on your own sense of self-esteem, self-worth, in order to be strong enough to go through a divorce and come out happily on the other side. If it is the situation that I mentioned before, where somebody, one part, either yourself or your partner, husband, wife, whatever, has had an affair because the relationship has stagnated, but you're looking to do something about it. There is, yeah. Well, even when you reach that point, you still have two choices. Do I want to save this relationship or not? If I really believe I do, because I believe that there's still something left in it, not because I think I should, then yeah, it's a really good starting point, because and that's where the communication skills, if you like, come in. It's a place that maybe even for the first time in your relationship, you can sit down and be completely honest. You have nothing to lose at that point. The worst, because certainly in most of our minds, the worst thing that can happen is an affair. So the worst has at that stage happened. So you can start from an absolute base of honesty. Okay, why did it happen? This is how I'm feeling. This is where, this is what drove me to it. Or, please tell me exactly what you were feeling that pushed you into that. And that's not to say that you start pointing fingers. Of course, as we said in our last podcast, that's not the place to start, and it's never going to get you anywhere. It's a case of, I am feeling like this. I was feeling like this. I was feeling neglected, unloved, ugly, fat. And I'm talking about all the things that us women feel that force us out to look for attention elsewhere. I didn't feel that you found me attractive anymore. He did. And from there, you can build, you can build on that. Is there something that we can do to change it? Is there a way that we can interact with each other, talk to each, interact? It doesn't sound like we're, a business relationship, but is there some way that we can talk to each other? Is there something we can do together? Do we have to go back to basics? Do we have to start dating again? Do we have to start, holding off on sex so that it becomes something we look forward to, and it's not perfunctory, it's not something that we do because it's Wednesday night at 10 o'clock?
Well, I think that there's a lot of circumstances that would go into the decision to let somebody that you would even be willing to work through it. Because if it was a long-term, especially let's just say it's a long-term situation, or it's like you said, it's happened more than one. There's, you know, whether they're a narcissist or not, although they probably are, if they have such little regard for you, it's also the betrayal, right? So you've got the fact that they're having sex with somebody else, but they're also lying to you probably almost nonstop because they're hiding the relationship. So I think that the sexual part, and this is just I've been doing this for a while and I see the damage that it does. I think the sexual part, and I've heard that this differs with men and women, that the woman is more hurt by the emotional side. Yeah. I may not, I'm not a man, I don't know for sure, but that the man is more hurt by the sexual part if someone's cheating on them. But having somebody lie to you that is supposed to love you is, to me, the more egregious part. How do you continue to lie to somebody that you love?
You say you love, yeah.
And that you say you love, and if you do it, if you're lying every day, if you're hiding, I see affairs that have gone on. People come in and tell me stories and I'm just like, oh my gosh, how come you didn't know, right? Or then maybe it's a coworker, or maybe it's somebody out of town, or they have the affair when they go to Texas or whatever, and they never know until some, other time. And I don't know. I think it would be very difficult to establish trust, even if you were fixing things, on the romantic place. I think it would be difficult to establish trust again if you found out someone had been lying to you for so long.
Yeah. Certainly it's not simple. It's not something that comes easily. Trust doesn't tend to come easily in the first place. And if it's been broken, there's a lot of work to be done. And the work has to come from both sides. Of course, the partner who has cheated has to show up in all honesty with all the cards on the table and be very, very open to being checked up on, and to do whatever it takes to make the other partner feel at ease. And I think, if that's available, of course, it's going to be easier to start the process. But from our point of view, I don't know how you deal with somebody breaking your trust, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's a friendship. We've all been in situations where somebody breaks our trust. And the fear of trusting again is there. But what is the fear? The fear is, one, feeling foolish, and two, being hurt.
Yeah.
And and we have to make a decision if we want to invest in this relationship going forward. We have to make a decision that, yes, we're willing to put ourselves in that situation again. Yes, we're willing to open ourselves up. And it's not, you've got to be available to do that and then start working on it. Because a lot of the time, and I'm not saying, of course, it's not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time we know. Maybe we don't know exactly what's happening, but we feel it. We feel it, and we don't want to admit it. So we brush it under the carpet. We hide from it. We make excuses for it. And, and that's, if we've decided that we're going to go forward, that's the place that you want to start with yourself. If you've got your partner who's willing to be an open book for you, then you have to start building that trust in yourself, in your own intuition, your own gut feeling, if you like, and not be so willing to push it under the carpet. Be brave enough to confront it when you get that feeling in your stomach. And I think that's, if you have those two elements, there is a possibility that you can turn it around, you can make something stronger, because you're communicating honestly and openly. And that does make for a stronger foundation for a relationship. So with that, you can take something forward, you will build it, and you can have a successful second half of your relationship, if you like.
Well, what I think is, no matter what, if you find out that your spouse has been having an affair, your partner, you cannot, like you said, you cannot sweep it under the car.
No.
Or under the car, Or the
under the car, under the carpet. You can't sweep it anywhere. You've got to face it.
You have to face it, because if you don't, I mean, and this is the divorce lawyer perspective, but if you don't, it's going to happen again. If there are no consequences, if there's no conversation, if there's, oh, I was drunk last night, it didn't mean anything, and you fall for that, it probably didn't. And maybe they were. But how many more times will they do that? You're kind of giving them, you're enabling that person to cheat on you.
Yeah.
And I have seen it. I mean, I've just seen, I mean, of course, I've seen so many bad things over almost 30 years that it's hard for me to see how you can make it pass. But no matter what, you have to address it.
Yeah.
You know, if you find out somebody in your relationship is cheating, you have got to address it. You don't have to get divorced, but if you just ignore it, you're doing yourself a disservice and the relationship a disservice. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah, you're lying to, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're lying to yourself. You're enabling your partner to go ahead and do it again, even if that wasn't the intention. You know, if it could well be that he got drunk and, you know, the relationship's in a bad, and it happened. But if you don't face it, of course you're enabling. But the other thing is, you're also, you know, you're creating resentment in yourself.
Oh yeah.
You know, you push down the feelings. There's only so long you can push down the feelings, and you start to, everything that that your partner does eventually starts to annoy you, and you start to get resentful, and you start to get angry, and you start to get bitter, and you start to be the one that's taking that bitterness into the relationship. You're the one that starts to poison the relationship, and you feel bad in yourself because you're aware that you're doing it. So you're not doing your partner any favors, but you're certainly not doing yourself any favors. You're causing resentment, and we could talk for hours about what you do to your own body, the sickness that you cause in your own body, but also, you know, mentally, by not facing it, you're causing anger, resentment, dislike, loathing, self-loathing, lack of self-esteem. You know, I should be able to face this. So, you know, at that point, you've lost the battle. You're not going to change anything either in the relationship or in yourself until you face the situation, until you have that conversation about whatever happened.
And the hardest for me when I see somebody that's been in a long-term relationship and they have known, but yet they've been too afraid because how are they going to support themselves? Or is anybody else going to love me? Or I'm staying for the kids. Or, I mean, I've heard every single thing in the world. And I had a client, I think it was last year, and her husband had been actually living with another man in another state for years. And I said, why on earth? Why have you stayed in this relationship? How is that making you feel? And she just cried and said that she just felt helpless. And for that person, that, I mean, the longer you stay, the more helpless you are. It's like staying in a burning building, and I don't know anything about fire, but if you know the building's on fire and you stay there and let it burn down, right? Or maybe not, this may not be the best analogy, but I mean, if you smell smoke, right, then get out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But she just stayed and stayed and stayed. And her health, I mean, she's in such poor health. And I asked her, I said, do you think that if you had addressed this years ago, that you would be in a different state physically now than you are? Because what it does, like you just said, I mean, what it does to you and your self-esteem and your feelings about yourself. Because, I mean, I understand, and you may say, well, it's easy for you to say, but no amount of money is worth sacrificing your life. And it's usually not as hopeless as you think it is.
Yeah. most of it, you know, when we have a problem that we don't deal with, it lives in our minds, and the longer it lives in our minds, the bigger the problem gets. You know, it's so blown out of reality. You know, it doesn't live in reality anymore. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the bigger it gets up here, the more difficult it is to deal with.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're right, it starts to deal with your body. It starts to affect your body. It starts to affect your self-confidence, your self-esteem, your self-worth. You know, and at the, you know, you reach a point where you wonder, maybe I don't deserve anything more than this. Maybe this is all I deserved anyway. So, you know, which is, it's heartbreaking. Of course, it's absolutely heartbreaking, because we all deserve to be loved. We all deserve to be respected. We all deserve to be happy. And I'm not talking about happy 24/7, but we all deserve to be happy and be able to wake up in the morning and face life saying, okay, this is the best life that I can have today. Not, you know, how did I get here?
Right.
And there's no way out.
Yeah. And I think that so I have a client that this will be her third time that she's come in, and she's coming in next week, and her husband had been having an affair for a long time, and beautiful lady. And when I look at her, and I just said, you know, again, I mean, and I thought, because I find myself so like vexed at why people stay in these horrible marriages when they know. And she said, because I wanted my daughter to finish, I wanted her to get through school. I didn't want to impact her school. Right. And I said, well, what is it doing to you? What is this doing to you? And so finally, you know, she's gotten the courage up. I think it's been going on almost a year. And if you need time to get courage up, I mean, what I say is like to plan your divorce. I mean, look at how much money you're going to need. Look at, you know, what kind of support are you going to need? What kind of job do you need to get? How can you, and there are tons of ways that you can make money if you look at, you know, how can I what are my skills? How can I make money? How can I do this? Can I downsize? Whatever. You can figure it out, and you can get yourself to a better place.
And that's, yeah, I think we have that fear that when we make a decision, we've got to move immediately. And it doesn't have to be that. The decision is just the starting point. The decision is the starting point to say, okay, what do I need? And sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's somewhere to stay. More often than not, it's changing the courage that you have, that you've been using just to put up with the situation that you're in, taking that and finding a way to change it, to give you the courage to move on. It's, you know, that goes back to building your self-confidence, building your self-esteem, and getting to the point where you're not living in the worst case scenario where I'll never have any money, nobody will ever love me. Yeah, living in the best case scenario where I will be free to make choices on how I want to live the rest of my life, free to accept love back into my life again. So sometimes it takes that, yeah.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time talking to people about how they can have a better life. And on the opposite, I recently had a man that came in, and he wasn't having an affair, but he had been on dating sites. And he had been talking to, he'd never met any of the women that he talked to. But he'd been doing this for a long time, and he had talked, and his wife knew, and of course she castigated him for it, but he just kept doing it because he has like an emotionally abusive relationship. I mean, she's very emotionally abusive to him. And I said, look, never going to get any better, because you can't, I mean, if you've been married 25 plus years and you've been telling that person, because I always say, well, have you talked to them about their behavior? You know, what have you done? You know, what have you done to address? You know, have you ever tried? And if you have, and nothing is changing, and you know, or you see yourself going down that road of cheating or whatever, because I said, eventually you're going to meet one of these women. We're in the middle of a pandemic now, but you're not a bad looking guy. Don't, you know, there are women that want to go out with you. And if you keep at this, that's what's going to happen. And then we're really going to be up a creek. And so he, you know, he's going through his divorce now. But I mean, because I always tell people, if you're about to have an affair, please
get divorced first.
Please get divorced first. You know, if you really think you can't fix things with your spouse, get a divorce first. You know, separate at the very least. And, you know, this is not legal advice, but there is legal advice around that. But, you know, adultery is not good on either side. You know, you may think it's fun, but what is it doing to you when you are lying all the time? Unless you're a narcissist, then you don't even care.
You're not even aware that you're lying.
This is not really the narcissist podcast. We're both kind of anti-narcissist. Yeah. I don't even care to let you guys know that our and of course you don't care either, so it's fine. Okay, so that's about all I have on adultery for today, and we're going to talk about something that I think is pretty close to this in our next podcast: revenge. See you soon.
Can't wait for it. See you soon, everyone.
Right.
Bye.